Hiya! Welcome to this, my 103rd episode of VideoFuzzy. I'm your host, Terry J. Aman, sifting my basket of media memories, and in this installment titled Rubicon, that long-beloved, stripped-down, puzzle-focused AMC spy thriller finally turned up in my collection. Plus, lots of who, old and new. I broke into binder number 10, and in what I've been watching, a look at My Hero Academia, the movies. Welcome to the show.
He doesn't have it on video, does he? We'll find out together on VideoFuzzy.
Well, real life has been an adventure. Last time I reported we sold our home in North Dakota, we have since found a nice little apartment here in Utah. We needed everything. We brought most of our clothes with us and packed our books and files and stuff into storage unit, but left our furniture, our tools, our bedding, our dishes, all our cookware, just a lifetime's accumulation of everything people need to live their lives. We left all that behind. Yes, with the express idea in mind that we would replace some things, and certainly that has been the case. We'd have been hard-pressed to cram a 2-story house worth of stuff into a 2-bedroom apartment. Our life was headed for some downsizing regardless. But then we barely get ourselves settled into a new place, and I take off on another grand adventure. Author and fellow podcaster Kemper Donovan, I've mentioned him once or twice on the show, but slated book chat Washington, D.C., and okay, so travel right now, planes just crash into each other sometimes, and ice has been stopping trains even. Maybe you wanted to go to D.C., but you end up in El Salvador. I mean, I absolutely understand my husband's hesitation about traveling while brown right now, and it's a concern, but I'm still between jobs. My time is entirely my own, so if I use some of it to book a train across the U.S., well, I'm gauging as proof of concept. First problem, getting Chicago. Amtrak told me it would take 11 hours. In Japan, maybe. Hopped on at 3 a.m. in Salt Lake City, and by 10 a.m. we just entered Colorado. It actually took 35 hours to get to Chicago, which is no big deal on its own, but just reflect that on the ticket. Some system glitch failed to account for an entire day in both directions. Fortunately, because we'd made a day trip to Grand Junction, Colorado in March, we knew that was a much easier journey for us, so Ralph picked me up there on the way back, saving me another 7 hours on the train, and as it turned out, another overnight stay in Salt Lake City. Then we also learned that the trip to Chicago only takes 28 hours if you start in Colorado. Kemper Donovan's book chat was fantastic. My review of Loose Lips is on episode 99. My review of his ghostwriter mystery debut, The Busybody, is on episode 92. Both reviews are at the 20-minute mark in each of those episodes, and both pretty much glowing. Since I had 2+ days of train ride getting there, I reread Loose Lips and struck once again with the strength of Kemper's storytelling. I naturally had a million questions, but it's a book chat, not an interview. Between his, as always, engaging presentation and audience participation, we dug into the story, the characters, and what's coming next. Apparently our ghostwriter's next adventure will be taking her to my neck of the woods. How exciting. As it turns out, the book chat in Maryland was in fact my last opportunity to see him. They'd added this final stop in his tour, and this was going to be it, and the expense of the trip would have been prohibitive, downright irresponsible had we not sold the house just a few weeks before. I can't imagine spending this amount of time in transit very often. Being away from Ralph for nearly 2 weeks is about the longest we've ever been apart, and obviously I prefer to bring him along, but this country is what it is right now. I get it. But it was a good time. I got to visit friends, take in the National Gallery of Art, see a Renoir, a Cézanne, a Lautrec, some gorgeous early Americana. One painting titled The Breakfast looked like a damn photograph and dated from 1910. A few days in D.C., a few days in Chicago, a lot of days on the train. I got a Starry Night Magnet. Just incredible opportunity. And I still have my media collection to chat about, so without any further ado, let's dive into...
And now, VideoFuzzy presents Fuzzy Feature.
I had lots of good material to choose from in highlighting a production this time. I encountered 2010's trippy weird summer series Persons Unknown, a bunch of first and second season supernaturals. I was very excited at the appearance of Dream Lord episode of Doctor Who. It would certainly be the feature this time. And then I popped disc 1873 into the player and my jaw slackened. A series of context-free vignettes cross our screen. A stately mansion, a woman in a garden, an elder statesman receives a 4-leaf clover in his morning mail. As calmly as we've seen him do everything else, he retreats to his study, places a pistol at the side of his head, and fires. Scene shifts to an aggressively nondescript workspace somewhere in New York, where preternaturally perspicacious minds gather to sift through bales of data, primarily focused on finding patterns, instilled, overt, implicit, hidden, intended, discerned, intuited. Welcome to Rubicon. The world this show is a world in which top-level spycraft is carried out in ciphers and clues, communicated through classified ads and crossword puzzles, planes crash, covers blown, just the subtlest hint at the fourth equipotent branch of the American government triggers suicides, a train crash, one of the few people capable of grasping the moment of that message, targeted, killed, made to look like an accident. Our story centers on James Badgedale's intelligence functionary, Will Travers, a man who lost his wife and child in the towers in 9/11. He's actively uninterested in life much anymore. He just wants to use his unusually intuitive gifts to counter terrorist activity, to stop chaos and destruction. By the end of the series, you feel the world would be worse if these exact people weren't involved in doing just that. Will's been busy with crosswords at major papers this division calls indicators, takes his findings to his somewhat debilitatingly superstitious boss, his father-in-law, Peter Garrity, as David Hadas, who apparently dismisses them, but between Hadas and his somehow even more paranoid supervisor, Arliss Howard, as Cale Ingram, they affirm Will's insight into the rather, it has to be said, tenuous crossword clues indicating legislative, executive, and judicial branches, then highlighting a shadowy fourth branch. They determined some editor somewhere didn't expect the pattern to be caught, or didn't care if it was. Will Travers' coworkers at the agency respect his work and treat him with kid gloves because of his loss. Anything he can do to thwart terrorism, he will. But this isn't the running around doing things of 24, and it's not the USA Network's bunch of spycraft of burn notes. This is the mission-focused brains of the broken. No one's minds can function at this level of attention. No, Will perceives a universe where everything will explode and kill us, just well enough to keep it from doing so. Will's boss, agency lead David Hadas, whose own innate talents for resolving patterns splash over into superstition, cannot abide a 13 nor any multiple of it. When a cleaner brushed his shoe with his broom, David had to buy it from him and hang it on his wall, or it'd be 10 years bad luck. He's otherwise pleasant enough, of course, and Will's his last surviving connection to his daughter and grandchild. He holds him in fond esteem. David also understands Will's intention to resign. In fact, encourages it, buys Will a motorcycle for his birthday, which Will had forgotten, and encloses a note with a key saying, "Go, run far away." But work is draining, and his heart isn't in it. Like vinegar on his teeth. Will's co-workers will be fine. David will keep the office going. Just meet him at the train station the following day for a debriefing. Which doesn't happen. The next morning, David is killed in a train crash, one of 36 fatalities, apparently tragic accident. Will, still planning to resign, is approached by Director Ingram at David's service. Ingram said David was one of the only people in the world who could do the work that position demands, and now he's dead. Well, he understands Will's intention to resign, but please think about it for a few days. Well, that sounds like a job offer. So the next 3 days are spent in legitimate investigation mode. Will takes a phone call from David's phone, intoning Knight to King's Bishop 3. Sounds like an early move. Will finds a chess match in progress under a wooden globe, the board inscribed with the legend, "From one plan to another, E.B." Will uses what knowledge he has of David's life to track down Roger Robinson as Ed Bancroft. Genius, brain-broken recluse. Will goes to him and talks about David, what he was doing, what he was up to. Ed dismisses him, but allows how he could have been targeted. Will goes to the train station, finds some poorly choreographed scene direction. David's vehicle is still there, parked in the 13th spot. It wasn't just if you counted from one direction or another, it was literally numbered slot number 13. It is impossible that David would ever have parked his car there. Still, Will is on his way to Director Ingram's office to submit his resignation with the horror of multiple co-workers. Tanya and Miles call him out directly. They cannot work for other next-in-line colleague, Grant, and I did not catch which one word convinces him not to, but Will changes his mind as he's handing his resignation to Ingram. Ingram thanks him, tells him to head upstairs. Agency head Truxton Spangler will want to give him his new clearances. Will takes a brutalist elevator to a low, broad, TARDIS blue space inspired by nothing so much as David Lynch, populated by a single security guard, Barry, who walks Will through his new security protocols, tells him Director Spangler's out, but we'll see him tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. sharp. We learn Spangler is called to Washington in the wake of Tom Rumour's suicide, the elderly gentleman at the top of the episode who seemed to be responding to the same intelligence Will had passed on to David. This is difficult. I can't really convey what it is about this show that I love so much. I feel like it is a show that was written, cast, and directed specifically for me to enjoy, and it has the single-season pedigree to show for it. It's so subtle. Pilot episodes, you've heard me say this before, have a lot of work to do building their universe. You don't have time for subtle, yet this is how some information is going to be conveyed. There's space, there's breadth, there's so much beige. It feels like a tech thriller from the 1950s where, look, with the advent of fiber optics, digital encoding, and Wi-Fi, nothing need be printed anymore. Serious people staring at newsprint for hours trying to figure out which overseas college will foment rebellion is outrageous when you mostly just have operatives on the ground developing contacts and seeing what's going to happen. The idea that unrest in a distant college campus or intelligence secured an Iranian wedding would cause a man to commit suicide on the other side of the world, or uncover a bomb plot, or destabilize world markets. That's Ian Fleming, John le Carré stuff. Production-wise, it reminds me anachronistically enough of the AMC presentation of Cold War spy thriller miniseries The Ipcris File from 3 years back. The notion that the world is a largely stable and coordinated system of systems, and you can interpret crossword clues in major newspapers to figure out what's going on when information travels at the speed of light. Now, don't get me wrong, it's incredibly comforting to think that impossibly intelligent, intuitive people are responsible for keeping us safe, particularly when we see American war plans shared in commercial chat board apps. The Secretary of Homeland Security doesn't know what habeas corpus is or why it's important, or seeing, everyone just got fired from the National Security Council recently. I gotta say, this quaint little show with its chess moves and crossword puzzles and perceptive, hypervigilant, extraordinarily intelligent people looking out for us is exactly the right speed for me right now. Looking over my notes as I took them, the show operates in data points of subtle significance. Newspapers, chess ciphers, crossword puzzles, the spare, haunting piano score, David's charming ability juxtaposed by his hyperactive brain and the million cross currents it navigated. First time this occurred to me in space 15 years of David's obvious affection for Will, and then his death so close to Will's birthday. That's just another cratering loss of stable connection in his life to heedless, howling terrorism entirely free of meaning. His life's work is a desperate search for order in a chaotic, destructive world. What it did for me, anyway, is get me hooked. I love this take on the story. I'm so happy to encounter it again here, and look forward to watching the story of these silent, poignant lives spent in service and protection unfold in my collection. Thank you, AMC.
I associate many things with many things.
Cross connection.
Well, as the show implies, everything is connected. This show, popping into my feed in 2010, a floating halfway space of this process between the late 80s and now, centered on the exploration of patterns and the mystical centers of my media collection is Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, 6 Feet Under, Ryan Murphy Productions, and Joss Whedon Productions, or Stream of 60 Wheat Studios. No. I'll start with, awkwardly enough, after committing his life as Will Travers to combating terrorism in Rubicon, James Badgedale's character 7 in Iron Man 3 is heavily involved in committing it. Is it not ironic? But James Badgedale is more than conflicted operative for either order or chaos, depending on the day. His appearance in 24 puts him a step removed from Joss Whedon's Buffy with D.B. Woodside, and in Rescue Me with Steve Pasquale with 6 Feet Under. Speaking of 24, I encountered Marilyn Rasjkub in the second season episode of Royal Pains, along with Henry Winkler, and saw Stephen Rudd as a judge in the first season episode of Justified. First season episode of Community featured Iqbal. Theba is Ovid's falafel father. Rich Sommer of Mad Men showed up in the fourth season episode of Burn Notice, and Michael Badalucco of The Practice and Laura San Giacomo of Saving Grace appeared in the third season episode of In Plain Sight. Jim Beaver joined the cast of Supernatural as Hunter Bobby Singer, end of season 1. Amber Benson of Buffy the Vampire Slayer appeared as Vampire in the second season episode of Supernatural, and alongside Sterling K. Brown, who played a fellow Hunter. Ellie, the barkeep, told the boys to stay away from him. Sam said, "I thought you said he was a good hunter." Ellie said, "Yeah, and Hannibal Lecter's a good psychiatrist. Stay away from him." Kind of exciting, also second season episode of Supernatural turned up in the set featured Linda Blair. Devon Gummersall of My So-Called Life and Ryan Murphy Production 911 showed up in the second season premiere of Drop Dead Diva, and the middleman himself, Matt Keeslar, turned up in the second season episode of Leverage. Fun.
Diving into my classic collection.
In my classic VHS to DVD transfers, this set covered discs 1851 through 1875. It also broke me into a new binder number 10, so I'll have some comments on that coming up. First, I need to focus on what the heck. It was the dreamiest dream sequence ever in a show wrought astride space and time, this narrowing in on 3 uneasy perceptions and potentially the least explored universe of all, our minds. Yep, there's a couple significant Doctor Who episodes I'll chat about this episode. Likely there should be 4, probably there should be 5. But just like with his ridiculous attempts at backstories for the Weeping Angels, the introduction of the Dream Lord seemed so important and was dismissed so flippantly I completely forgot the resolution. Amy's Choice, 5th season episode of Doctor Who, appeared on disc 1862 and was so certain it was going to be a feature this time I just dove in with note-taking. Fresh from their adventure in Venice, we're told the Doctor dropped them off in Ledworth, Upper Ledworth, actually, Rory asserts, and over the course of 5 years hence, they built a quiet village life together. Rory is a country doctor, and Amy, as we encounter her here, is a very pregnant wife. Just then, Doc lands TARDIS in Amy's flower bed. After yowsing about Amy at 8 months, 29 days, and 23 hours along, commiserates with them about how otherwise dull their life must be. Indeed, the rhythms of village life, they drowse, and they all wake up on board the TARDIS. None of them pregnant, all remarking on the vivid dream they've all just had in dull as Dirtsville, where it's been 5 years. Amy and Rory are married, and Amy is very pregnant, living in a village, and they all remark on how very strange it is, all of them having the same dream, when they all wake up again in the village and remark upon how now it seems the TARDIS 5 years ago was the dream that they were all having. The show flips them back and forth a couple of times to establish a conceit for the audience and lay in some stakes. Village life 5 years along, the elder population have caught the Doctor's attention. Apparently, they're all possessed of an alien race displaced from their homeworld, and oops, today they've decided to destroy all humans. And on board the TARDIS 5 years back, the controls have gone dead inside a gravity well of an ice star in the process of freezing them to death. It is here, about 10 minutes into the episode, we are introduced to the apparition in charge of these disruptions, the reason the TARDIS is adrift in space, the reason 5 years from now Amy and Co. are threatened by alien old people. Toby Jones, as I suppose you'd call me the Dream Lord, flashes into existence, chiding the Doc for taking as long as he has in figuring it out. Toby mops at him about his hair, his clothes, his time machine. Why don't you have a little purple dog just drive home what an intergalactic wag you are? Goes after Amy, points this up to her. One of her men faces deathly danger in each dream, but only one of the scenarios is real. Which is silly, because Dream Lord could craft dozens of scenarios with hundreds of perils if he were targeting the Doctor. Why target Rory? If you want to target Rory, just have a weeping angel send it back in time to lip to death. Which is an iffy prospect in any case, given he's a plasticine robot soldier with fully functioning servos waiting about 2,000 years outside the Pandorica. It could be a while. Rather, Dreamlord wakes them up again in Upper Ledworth, running in from just out of shot with a brain scan, noting the Doctor's brain is completely see-through. Dreamlord, if you die in your dream, you wake up in reality. Recovery instantaneous. Ask me what happens if you die in reality. Rory bites. What happens? You're dead, stupid. That's why it's called reality. But what reality was always too much for you, eh, Doctor? Take 2 and call me in the morning. Well, we're getting a sense of what's happening aboard the TARDIS. They'll eventually freeze to death. The danger if they fall asleep in Upper Ledworth, the aliens will eat them. The storylines progress in each scenario with the Dream Lord taunting Amy as she must figure out which one's the dream and which one's reality, till an old person alien eats Rory, and she determines that the TARDIS is reality. Because she just could not go on if it's not. Amy and the Doc climb aboard a VW minibus and crash into the house, waking up in the TARDIS. Good guess. Amy chose right. And fair's fair, the Dream Lord warms them up again, and the 3 all unite in the TARDIS. The day is saved. How wonderful. Doc says he's going to blow up the TARDIS. The thing is, he's determined it's still a dream they're all still in which they'd likely all freeze to death if they stayed. Because here's the thing, the Dream Lord, and she knows how helpful he become all of a sudden after Amy made her choice. He can't offer a choice between dream and reality. He can't control reality. The only thing he can control is dreams. Who's offering an all choice between 2 dreams? Doc blows up the, as it turns out, dream TARDIS, and they all come to in reality. Actual present-day Amy and Rory Nobody's pregnant reality. Doctors found some glitter in a time rotor, which he identifies as psychic pollen. Back in the village, the Doc told the Dream Lord, "I know who you are. I don't know how you can be here, but there's only one person in the universe who hates me as much as you do." Turns out the Dream Lord was, in fact, the darkness inside the Doc's personality. Psychic pollen was feeding on and activating, actually endangering all of them. So yeah, on one level it was a dream episode facing a dream villain, but the villain, in fact, was very real. We've seen number 4 facing the Black Guardian. We saw him as Valyard mount a case against number 6, the trial of a Time Lord, when Dr. Darkness giving Rain out to communicate directly with Amy and turn them against each other. We're not dealing with some harmless dream. It's easy to see how the doubts seemed here lead to antipathy, anger, actual hatred in later episodes. For now, of course, it's all wrong. Doc's darkness, Toby Jones, quite comic and harmless, sure, but let that coalesce, escape, perhaps by generate. Well, I guess we'll know for sure when it happens. Other discoveries on disc 1872 of Hawk's Movie Channel. I found an utterly ridiculous presentation of 1975's The Adventure of Sherlock Holmes' Smarter Brother, starring Gene Wilder as Sigerson Holmes, Madeline Kahn as a throw pillow, and Abby Normal as the other one. Obvious question on everyone's mind. Of course Dom DeLuise was involved. It was a flamboyant disaster. I'm sure I'll actually sit down and watch one day, but it will not be soon. As for the title, it appears that unlike Sigerson, Sherlock's actually smarter brother Mycroft was at least smart enough to sit this one out. Better was the appearance of Brian Benben and Mary Stuart Masterson in 1994's Radioland Murders, an absolutely fantastic romp featuring George Burns, Ed Beatty, Golden Thread Michael McKeon, Golden Prime Steve Tobolowsky, Christopher Lloyd, Corbin, Benson, Anita Morris, Larry Miller, Cat Goldthwait. It really was one of the most delightful stories I've ever seen committed to film. It's 1933, and brand spanking new national network WBN hosting its debut production amid a whirling cyclone of infidelities, indiscretions, and egos. A mysterious voice breaks in to hint at the network's sinister origins. Bam! The bodies start falling, but sponsors, contracts, storylines, the show must go on. Executive Secretary Penny Henderson keeps the pressure on. Her hapless, feckless, soon-to-be eckless writer husband Rogers got to tame the writer's room, reconcile the romance, solve the mystery, and save the day. But can he do it in time? It's all go in the HBO presentation of Radioland Murders, archived to disc 1871. I was going to leave this in cross connections, but what the hell? David Walton of Brockmire 9JKL turned up in something called 100 Questions, where Sophie Winkleman plays Charlotte, a young, beautiful British woman in New York who just cannot make romance work, and the entire How I Met Your Mother style sitcom, at least the first 2 episodes of this ridiculous show that I archived for some reason, is her giving long, involved in-person answers to questions in a Match.com style dating profile to Michael Benjamin Washington as Andrew. We see her failing to connect over and over, while her quirky, sympathetic friend group proves to be zero help at all, despite one of them appearing to be perfect for her, and is obviously smitten with her. So I guess the problem is probably outlined in the pilot episode, which I have not found archived anywhere and would likely have been instructive. This said, I found about 6 discs worth of first and second season Supernatural. I found 2010 MTV Movie Awards first season finale of Glee. I saw what I think an entire series of Saving Grace was building to. Holly Hunter's Oklahoma City police detective Grace Anadarko on some kind of heavenly trial for who she is. Some prosecuting attorney type calling her out for all the drinking and the sex and the drunken sex. And the one takeaway I had from that is Leon Rippey as her guardian angel Earl wore a t-shirt that showed a flashback first season, some Arabic writing on it. My phone now knows how to translate that for me, and I discovered the show had Earl's shirt stating in Arabic, "An eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind." I kinda love that I can now know stuff like that from 20 years ago. And the second season of Lifetime legal drama Legally Blonde 2 Electric Boogaloo, Drop Dead Diva, opened with a musical extravaganza in court. That is, a food court, with Paula Abdul reprising her role as a judge in Dream Sequence confronting Brooke Elliott as embattled lawyer Jane Bingham, now at her new hot dog on a stick gig with the words, Veritas vos liberabit. The truth shall set you free, and demands the truth of her, to which Jane sings, Would I lie to you, Paula Abdul? It turns into a whole thing. Jane dancing with Paula Abdul, her friend and roommate Stacy dancing with mall security, Margaret Cho as her paralegal Terry dancing in the Panda Express. It's dancing on tables. It's eurythmic realness. It's a dream sequence. Jane wakes up to her imminent disbarment for some kind of ethical lapse that was one and wasn't one. It's a whole thing, and apparently some secret husband no one in her life was aware of. It was only mildly more trippy than the premiere of the NBC paranoia freak-out drama Persons Unknown, archived at Disc 1863. This one had a team of market researchers observing a captive focus group in a hotel. Oh, wait, that's just what this would be now. Pilot episode, the universe expands very slowly. A woman is having a difficult morning with her daughter, which that scene stops abruptly, and she wakes up in a hotel room, which seems to be monitored. She explores the whole room, then finds her way into the hallway, where she finds more confused people, and they figure out how to get into the elevator, which gets into the lobby, and they find more confused people. No one knows how they got there, and no one knows who anyone else is. There's cutaways to clips from out here in the world we know it to be, and efforts made to find these missing people who don't seem to have any connection to one another. As they figure out how to leave the hotel, the town in which they find themselves seems to be abandoned, except for the best Chinese food restaurant any of them have ever been to, and their fortune cookies. Well, the woman was Janet, someone played by who cares. Her cookie told her to kill someone, she'd go free, so psyops. But this was also an intriguing recurrent role for Chadwick Boseman, who some kind of Gulf War vet, I think. The show seemed more than anything else to be a reimagined version of The Prisoner. Now half a dozen of them apparently pitted against one another in some kind of pressure cooker experiment, see what they can get far as we can tell ordinary people to do to one another. Obviously, the someone's mom is going to be especially motivated to get out, get back to her life, her family, but how far is she willing to go to make that happen, especially when no one can get any further than the city limits? I had high hopes for this one, but NBC apparently did not. It burned itself out as a summer replacement. I don't even know if I saw the whole thing. I may revisit it as more episodes turn up and further cataloging, but we'll see how the thing progressed.
Video of
Disc 1863 put the pilot episode of Persons Unknown among the last in binder number 9, which contained discs 1658 through 1865, which I've not taken the time to study what collections of 208 discs would result in numerical anagrams of each other, but maybe it's not super common. Certainly it's the first time I encountered the phenomenon of this specific set of discs. Regardless, binder number 9 opened with Martin Short and Lily Tomlin joining the cast third season of Damages and the 6th season premiere of Lost way back in catalog post, 96, which I posted in October. That doesn't seem very long ago. There's a couple of reasons for that. VideoFuzzy, the soundtrack, went on hiatus in November in anticipation of a special as-yet upcoming episode, so most of my entries since then have advanced this project. Binders on average contain a few more than 200 discs, so generally take about 8 episodes, but in this case, episode 100 covered 50 discs, so even further along than I might normally have been. And our move and U.S. tour aside, my time between jobs here has pretty much been my own, so I've managed to focus on cataloging a bit more than I can when I'm also working. Other discoveries in my 9th binder, I found Obama's very first official State of the Union address from 2010 ahead of the national healthcare discussion, and I'm remembering his reluctance to have that interfere with the airing schedule of Lost on ABC, which, that is just charming. On a related note, I found the floor debate on the Affordable Care Act in this set, as well as Daily Show with Jon Stewart single-handedly capping the BP oil spill, his Mentos in a 2-liter bottle of Diet Coke representing the oil spill, and fishing pole with a clay pot on it representing the cap. It was nothing short of heroic, this action he created at his desk in the studio. That's not gotten many views on VideoFuzzy's Instagram, which is a shame because high comedy. Several movies got archived to this set of discs, including The Simpsons movie from 2007, Jawbreaker from 1999, the Turner Classic Movies 3-hour presentation of Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace from 1956, starring Audrey Hepburn, which I may actually get around to watching one day. I found my classic collection copy of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf from 1966, and following that, same VHS tape, Batman Returns from 1992, the 1976 miniseries Sybil starring Sally Field, and the 2009 production of Hamlet starring David Tennant and Patrick Stewart. Speaking of David Tennant, this binder contained his bow as a title character from two-parter Doctor Who End of Time Christmas special featuring Bernard Cribbins and introducing Matt Smith to the role. The Simpsons 20th year anniversary special hosted by Morgan Spurlock and a couple of Kathy Griffin specials, Balls of Steel, and actually on disc 1865, Kathy Griffin Does the Bible Belt. Binder number 9 featured several series premieres including Caprica, Justified, Human Target, Supernatural, Grey's Anatomy, Happy Town, and Good Guys I celebrated recently, and with somewhat less enthusiasm, Persons Unknown. Making their final bow in this set were Lost, Heroes, Ugly Betty, Mercy, 24, Nip Tuck, Robin Hood, and, oh wow, Flash Forward. Okay, yeah, I do have some stuff to say about Flash Forward at some point. It's absolutely going to happen, but yeah, while it was going on, I thought it was this great psychological exploration, like, what would you do if you knew what your life would be like 3 months from now? Or, more to the point, if you knew you wouldn't be around? And then, this potentially fascinating thought experiment got covered in cowplop, and their justification for the global flash forward of the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland performing a function accomplished 1 billion times a second to the heart of every star in the universe. But this one, checks notes, sunk everyone on the planet into a coma for 2 minutes and 37 seconds, while one person with a resonant resisting ring managed to stay awake, for which I'm sure there was some compelling reason, during which time everyone had vivid visions of their lives a few months in the future. Because, yeah, that's all stuff that happens when you accelerate proton clusters to nearly the speed of light and cause them to collide. Alright. So yeah, I was going to sit down and watch the last few episodes of Flash Forward again to see how they hold up, and believe me, once the cataloging portion of this project is behind me, I'll have more freedom to do these kinds of deep dives, but closing out binder number 9 means I've still got binders 10 through 13 left to catalog. Given that I was barely getting into binder number 2 when I started this process means progress has absolutely happened, but more than 1,600 discs later, I know we are nowhere near 2570 yet. Out of curiosity, I took a peek 4 binders into the future and found that while I do have discs numbered to 2570, I'm seeing 3 discs of Doctor Who episodes recorded before I had the brilliant idea to split out classic and current collection. Technically, my classic collection goes to 2573, but I'm not complaining. At 25 discs per episode, they'll all be well within the final episode, but spoilers, it'll include Null's 6th season regeneration to Alex Kingston and River Song. Speaking of long-anticipated reunions, I encountered the second half long-separated episode in this set, the first and second half of second season Arrested Development episode, Ready, Aim, Marry Me, featuring Martin Short as Uncle Jack and archived discs 537 and 1750. More than 1,200 disc separation. I can't say it's the longest spaced gap in this collection, but it's among the longest I've discovered thus far, for sure. Finally, I encountered a bunch of South Parks in this set, a bunch of Ghost in the Shells, a bunch of first season Desperate Housewives in here, first season Cougar Town, Archer, Glee, and Community. I found second season Fringe and Castle, third season Chuck and In Plain Sight and Breaking Bad, fifth season Bones, fifth season Doctor Who, sixth season episodes of The Office in this set. This set includes my 100th episode, and I had a fun conversation with my sister, posted my first new VideoFuzzy the Video episodes in years, number 11 celebrating 100 episodes, and number 12 celebrating Bradley Whitford's mustache in The Good Guys. Cataloging this binder has largely covered the time we spent transitioning from North Dakota to our new home in Utah. We've had some triumphs and some setbacks, along with recording issues, and we're still waiting for our things to join us from storage. But you've been with us along the way, and I thank you for your kind thoughts and well wishes. Onward. Attention, children, quiet please.
Today I read
Book Report. Traveling the country nearly 2 weeks by train gave me lots more time to read than I seem to have when I'm at home, and I put it to good use. After hearing your interview on Kemper Donovan's All About Agatha podcast, I took the opportunity while attending Kemper's book chat, People's Book, to secure a copy of The Guest List by Lucy Foley. Ancient Castle Finery lays the backdrop to the gala destination wedding of elegant lifestyle blogger Jules to rising rugged outdoors superstar Will. Rambunctious groomsmen, harried staff, and skittish bridal attendants negotiate secrets and weave their own mysterious backstories into the island's terrible past. Social tensions and mounting storms combine to threaten a couple's perfect day and exact at least one person's idea of harrowing justice. Oh, I gotta say, the tone of voice, engaging, endearing, intriguing. While it takes some time to establish the rhythm, Foley really crafts a compelling world with her multi-voice format. What could be a higher stakes situation than a lifestyle blogger's destination wedding? The groom, the cake, the vibe, everything's got to be perfect, but chaos threatened at every turn by psychotic groomsmen, sullen brides, discovered infidelity, all culminating in murder. Lucy Foley, well done. I got the rest of her catalog. I can't wait to read them. So much friggin' fun. I was reading a seafaring short story as Kemper's maritime mystery book chat began, a collection of modern Miss Marple stories I also heard about on All About Agatha. Published a few years ago as Agatha Christie's Marple, contemporary detective fiction writers each imagined new adventures for Christie's beloved sleuth. As I had the anthology with me, I suggested his own love for the character made Kemper an obvious choice for inclusion in any upcoming such collection, and he assured me he'd absolutely put some thought into such an effort, and I for one hope pans out for all our sakes. Nothing has ever dissuaded Miss Marple in her search for the truth, and I love that her adventures may continue in this manner. Agatha Christie's Marple, such a fantastic read. Finally, while in Chicago, I visited another indie bookshop in the Evanston neighborhood, found something called The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This 2020 release explored the depressing life of the perfectly hopeless Nora, who decides at once to end it all, and then doesn't, or more to the point, experiences so many permutations of a life she discovers could unfold in so many different directions, some of which she might actually have enjoyed. The lightness of touch Haig takes in the speculative energies is only part of the joy I found in this choose-her-own-adventure exploration, and found myself rooting for Nora. Going by his other titles, this guy seems to have found his niche with this kind of storytelling, and I may track down more of his stuff in the future. Good stuff.
What I've been watching.
So I mentioned back there things are still on their way, which in fact includes my VHS DVD dubbers. A couple of reasons why I'm focused on those. First, since we finally got our own place and our own set-top setup, I'd like to resume archiving. Secondly, and this mostly stood on the past 50 discs or so, but this set especially, every third disc I cataloged and I posted this to VideoFuzzy's Instagram, but the discs have a blank ring of unfinalized burr on the edge, generally coinciding with my dubber completing a 6-hour VHS tape, not auto-finalizing the last one, and me never picking up on that. The problem is most players can't read unfinalized discs. Somehow my tower is able to read them, but it's not capable of finalizing them. And that's fine, but it's annoying to play discs in the same machine you're cataloging them, shifting back and forth between Power2Go DVD player app and Word. Thing is, once our stuff gets here, I've got a function DVD plus R, DVD minus R dubbers. It's possible, not likely, mind you, but possible that I can pop these unfinalized discs into the appropriate dubber and finally, finalize them, or at least play them possibly comes time to transfer the disc to a hard drive. I prefer the odds of a finalized disc to an unfinalized one. Oh my god, nerd, boo, shush. I was talking about what I've been watching, and apart from my second season Doctor Who finale I must sit with for a while. Maybe got some plans for my 8th anniversary show coming up here. We'll find out. I have been streaming the episodes as they've come available on Disney. Now, I've chatted some about the current season, and I'll try to limit the spoilers, but once I got back from my DC Chicago adventure, there's no way I'd be done with this before the season was over, though it's unlikely I'd be able to watch all of it in time to include the whole thing in this set. So we're left with Schrodinger's ending. Did the series implode as per marketing, or did we continue fueling this never-ending story? Spoiler alert, yes. But to begin answering this, I'll start with a semi-recent entry, the story and the engine. I don't always manage it, but I needed to watch this one a couple of times because confusing. Doc has an inspiration while on its continuing journey to triangulate Miss Belinda Chandra back to her timeline. He sets up a vindicator in Lagos in Africa, a source of comfort and strength for him, a place in the universe he feels connected. He's forged a connection with a barber in the shop off to the side of a busy marketplace, and to get to him from where he parked, the doctor must navigate a million reconnecting hugs and cuddles, so it's not been too long since he was there last, yes? Well, he gets to the barber shop and the streets are silent. The warning signs to turn back, and posters for missing person, missing long enough for their families to have given up, and somehow never peeked inside what looks like an abandoned barber shop nearby. Omo is still there, as are all the missing persons, eternal clients, and a woman, Abby, who can come in and out and bring food to them to keep them alive. We're told she's the daughter of the barber, a man with piles of ropey cornrow braiding piled to the top of his head, who one day came in and offered to cut Omo's hair, and then took over the shop. We see the story Omo tells how he met the doctor who saved the forest from burning down, animated on a view screen, which we learn is integrated with the barber chair, the drop cloth, and the trimmers. Then, when the trim is done, the story concluded, some battery somewhere momentarily full, and poof, the client grows back all their hair, instantly, like magic, ready to get another trim and tell another story. Part of the confusion is the nature of the barber. His storyteller creates the gods, the man-spider trickster god Anansi, his Freya, his Loki, his Dionysus. Doc says, "No, you're not. I got drunk with Dionysus once. You aren't him." The barber guy did create a web, a worldwide web, using the essence of gods, and an engine fueled by stories. Oh, the doctor has best stories that can drive the engine beyond the realm of storytelling fueled by such stories, which Barber wants to do because he hates those gods for denying him the credit for his stories. He does not even have a name. He wants to escape the stories and remove them from existence. So, Abby is the barber's daughter from when Barber was in the guise of the trickster god Anansi. She's angry that she was a prize in a bet to the doctor, said he did everything in his power to lose, though she, at the time, because fugitive doctor played by Joe Martin. The little barber shop has a compression field generated by the door frame. My heavens, the modification Barbinger has made to the shop. Abby can get in and out. Everyone else is locked in, including the doctor. When he sonics the door frame, he opens it into outer space, where the barber's worldwide web is crawled by a gigantic mechanical spider with almost barber shop on its great big mechanical bum. Abby gets after him for trying to escape, but then guides him out by weaving a pattern into his hair that gets him through the maze to the back of the shop, the heart that beats inside a brain and the story webs. Oh, because what else is a story? And as they come up to a face on the outside of it, cries out in terror. So the stories fuel the engine, which is a big scary spider spinning now enormously convoluted webs made of strands of god essence, which Barber wants to escape and destroy. As the spider is climbing around the web outside the shop, the same stuff is heart-brain structure in the back of the shop, which is on the spider's back. And when Doc convinces Barber to let Omo and the other patrons escape, Barber begins cutting his own hair, which for some reason seems not to fuel the story. Maybe he can't fuel his own machine. At any rate, the stories are collapsing. The maze is now a straight line. They're all out the street in Lagos in front of the shop. Doc demands to know his story. He demanded once of Hemingway what was the shortest story he could write. Doc got a 6-word story. I'm born, I died, I'm born. Good it's so short because shop's energy, its story fuel, it's collapsing on a compression field or whatever, and oh wow, here comes that great big spider through the door of the shop into our world. But oh wow, just in time the compression field collapses and the spider, furious it had been blown up, is skittering towards the outer reaches of the story galaxy. No mecha spiders were harmed in the making of this episode. Spinning tales, spinning yarns, spinning webs, Lagos, Anansi, storytellers, cultural investment. Oh, appointments are useless in Africa. I'm not, I spent 6 days on a train operated and passengered by the broadest mix of ages and races, certainly responsibility levels. But anyone, no one keeps appointments in Africa. I'll just note that the trains got us all everywhere we were going. Air and train travel occurs in Africa, which do require things to happen at a time. Not everything can A wildebeest laid down in the middle of a road and all commercial activity on the continent came to a halt while we all had a great laugh about the rhythms and life ways of Mother Africa. No. People have to get places by time. Was this, the cultural center and security of a barber shop, a center where stories are told and shared? How do we make this science fiction? Giant mecha spiders. The barbershop is a TARDIS. It's bigger on the inside in outer space, and the barber is a teller of stories, a maker of gods, harbinger maybe, who's fueling a gigantic mechanical spider to escape reality in a little barbershop in a little town on this planet you can totally just go to. Storytelling gods mentioned were all terrestrial, Norse, African, Greek, and indeed the barber had always been human. Doc, when he told his story about Belinda saving a woman's life by being more intuitive, more perceptive than her colleagues, Doc remembered Abby as someone he met as Joe, the fugitive doctor. Belinda encountered Poppy, one of the space babies from season 1, on her way to the barber shop, so it's possible that, as he said, the stories were all leaking around the edges, the lost millennia we learned of in the Flux sequence. So, a celebration of storytelling stitched with utterly naff science fictional trappings. They could have done this without a gigantic mechanical spider stomping around in space. This show, every time giant spiders are brought into it, never once seen them handled well. Writers love to celebrate the power of stories for the sake of it, then forget how nice it is for them to make sense, have some kind of internal and external cohesion. I described it as the production team had a great idea, but as they developed it, forgot to step back occasionally and ask themselves what was actually happening. Who would these people be, and what would all of this look like? A rogue storyteller hijacking a barbershop, but then to destroy the gods he helped create requires the doctor to say, no, humans need their gods, they need their mythologies and silly superstitions to give them context, to bind them to the stories and to each other. Nah, I'm good. Stakes. That was what this storyline was going to have trouble with, and seemed tailor-made for the Celestial Toymaker Harbinger arc. I mean, we've had death, music, light, why not stories? At the Barber's Anansi and also all these others, who exactly is Abby, and what was her relationship to Joe? A prize? Then, at the end of all that, Owen's just going to retire, and the barber's going to run his now perfectly ordinary shop, free of all the high-tech view screens and stuff. No giant spiders climbing all over. Those kidnapped victims just resume their lives, no repercussions. It feels to me like they needed to work this one a lot more. Other entries this season focused on catfishing, cruelty, terrorism, the nature of reality. In fact, the finale was titled The Reality War. More later, but not too surprising to find someone so cynical at the center of that. Closing out, I mentioned My Hero Academia, which, and there are absolutely going to be My Hero Academia spoilers from here on out, so fair warning. Anyway, this has been a bit of a sore point between me and Ralph for a while. A few years ago he was showing me the anime, and I was enjoying it well enough, but a few of the themes were not gelling for me. Heroes being heroes are heroic. They want to help and save those in trouble, the less fortunate, whereas villains have complex, sympathetic backstories that make them do all the horrible things that they do. So when their quirk, superpowers identified as quirks, is decay or teleportation or duplication or illusion, they do bad, destructive things with them, or maybe it makes sense. Or when someone absorbs everyone's quirk and uses it destructively, they're locked away in stasis because what else could you do with them? World of the show, most people have quirks. They figure about 80% of the planet. So 20% of the world's population are normies, but 80% have powers they learn about when they're 4 or 5, and then a lot of them develop them at hero academies. And the best ones go to UA High School, as does Suzuki Midoriya, who was born a quirkless wonder, whose bravery and heroic instincts caught the attention of All Might, whose quirk, one for all, can be passed to others. As superpowers go, it's pretty good. You get strength and speed. It ramps on your body some. At first, Midoriya can barely use it at all without breaking, himself. But with training and support gear developed at the school and off-site, he's becoming a worthy successor, as All Might's body is progressively breaking down from his encounter with All for One. So far I like it. Thinking in terms of a world where most people have incredible gifts they can use to make life better for others is actually a fun approach to the world. The show never really references the fate of the quirkless in the society, and some quirks would obviously be pretty marketable, and it's not hard to see how many would easily serve their hosts. Weightlessness or invisibility, for instance, if they turn to a life of crime. The training at UA isn't different from Professor Xavier's School for the Gifted or Hogwarts or other stories where young people are figuring out how to be good people as well as training their talents. There's there's a hero license. They can't just do hero stuff until they're certified, and all of this makes more sense in the show. But the problem I was having was when there's a big, huge war with the villains, who, as far as I can tell, don't have formal training and just develop their disruptive tendencies on their own. Less good schools and with their own motivations. It's insane because trained, geared up heroes all working together as a team are often powerless in the face of red-tape villains operating at cross purposes with no planning, yet they're able to break into labs and steal quirk erasers, decay entire countrysides, loose indestructible monsters, and even when the heroes have done their absolute best, they just can't win. I found some of the storylines to be depressing, but then I'm told I'm watching it wrong. But every universe is telling its own story, and this one bugs me. Well, compromise. The My Hero Academia world includes movies, which we watch together during some of our downtime, and again, these contain storylines that are quite enjoyable. The first one included half the first floor class visiting a floating island of scientists for a gala over a summer break. All Might's old friend from America, David Shields, is one of the top scientists there, and David's daughter, Melissa, a technical genius, formed a connection with Midoriya, or Deku, his hero name. She noted him training with this quirk, how he is holding back, and developed a kind of shock absorber for him that would let him use his power at greater strength. Well, the problem with the gala happened before it even started. A team of villains infiltrated the complex, subverted the security systems, and targeted some experimental tech. The professional heroes on the scene were summarily neutralized by security countermeasures, so the UA class formed a plan to deal with the disruptions and put things right. The adventure was reasonably contained and gave everyone a chance to shine. The second movie took place in a mostly peaceful seaside resort. Most of the heroes in training took part in the summer training opportunity, and the summer was largely uneventful, until a team of villains targeted the town's means of securing a specific resident, a child of a man whose quirks stabilized cell functions. He was another polymath like All for One, could absorb and use 9 quirks at once, but it weakened him terribly, and he wanted to absorb this specific healing quirk. Well, there's nothing more heroic than saving children. After sending for help from the mainland, the UA team developed a strategy to fight the villains and save the townspeople. This battle was even more devastating than the attack on the floating island, and it's incredible that everyone wasn't killed because it really wasn't a consideration for the villain in question. But yeah, it was cool to see everyone working together saving the day. I've been raising the question of 20% of the world's population being normies, no superpowers or quirks, and the response to these heroes, villains, and whatnot. The third movie suggested some of them followed a cult emphasizing the importance of unsullied humanity. Humorize, centered on, surprise, a villain named Fleck Turn. He is arguing that in time all of humanity would be warped by the spread and metamorphed nature of quirks, and pure humanity would disappear. Okay, well, this storyline was compelling enough in the X-Men and Alphas and True Blood, but next stage of human evolution is always so interesting. I mean, no one's superpower is regulates thyroid output or imagines nice things to do for other people. I mean, those born without quirks, how do we know? They even seem to develop over time, some of them. And I've always asserted that Deku's true quirk is strategy. From his earliest outsets, before even acquiring One for All, he determined which abilities could combine to secure winning outcomes. It's one of the reasons I disliked matchups with overwhelming odds. Deku would assess the situation and figure them down to whelming odds tops, even not accounting for everything. I kid up against damn near anyone, mostly because he was obsessed with quirks. From his earliest experience, he'd scribble in his notebooks how quirks manifest, what they did, what their limits were. Not having one of his own didn't slow him down at all. Then when he began to develop One for All, he shifted his focus to what he could do. As he developed a power, he accessed deeper parts of it, former keepers of that quirk. What he gained in effectiveness, he seemed to lose in perspicacity. He'll be a phenomenal character once he rediscovers that ability. In this case, he was up against a mirror power, Fleck Turn, who planned to eliminate all professional heroes by having them gather around toxic bombs. They're heroes. They're going to try to solve the problem and save the people. The bombs release a gas that overloads quirks and destroys heroes. Student heroes Deku, Bakugo, and Shoto are on location in Europe, joined by Rhodey and Pino. Deku gets caught up in an apparent jewel heist involving Rhodey somehow, a slippery individual with connection with Humorize Underworld. His father had been coerced in the development of the gas. Growing up, he taught Rhodey puzzle games. The ordinary-looking briefcase Rhodey secured for transport for Humorized villains had a secret compartment. Rhodey helped solve the puzzle and learned the secret to the countermeasures his dad put in place for the gas bombs. Meanwhile, Deku, Bakugo, and Shoto fought humorized villains involved in the anti-hero plot, so as smoke cleared, they'd be the ones left with the quirks and could live as supervillains. The towering inclusion was towering inclusive, but this was the sort of thing I was talking about. First season Deku would face down a mirror guy with a team of heroes, not least of whom Eraser, who would neutralize the threat. Third movie Deku just kept powering up, throwing more and more energy at him until he wore him down. He had no way of knowing that would work, and there was a tight clock. Deku had to get on the other side of a disco ball and activate a chip before the bombs went off and all his friends died. Cut it pretty damn close and left a lot of wreckage in his wake, vanquishing him. Movie the fourth, Ralph found while we were tracking down a new television for us. He knew it was out, but hadn't seen the Blu-ray dubbed version before then, so kismet. This one, My Hero Academia, You're Next, centered on the crime boss and his entourage. Crime boss Valdo Golini's quirk is illusion, and it pairs with a young woman he'd abducted whose quirk is intensifying. Valdo is obsessed with All Might and calls his persona Dark Might, even with his illusion quirk kind of looking like him. His crime boss family, one of them could trap people in happy memories or kill them trying. If they were incompatible with her quirk, they'd just fall over dead, and a lot of people were incompatible. Fortunately, the UA Academy heroes were largely compatible, but highly susceptible to the mind traps. Even Deku, who found himself surrounded by All Might action figures and the man himself. This is a little less creepy than Minoru and Denki. At least all the girls in their beach fantasy were clothed. The crime boss brings all the drama because the girl was abducted. Her servant Julia was pursuing her to either kill her or rescue her. He knew what they were doing was killing her, and he was unable to keep her quirk from overwhelming her. None of this is obvious from the beginning. From the beginning, all we can see is Dark Might creating larger and larger disruptive illusions with his mind, and this crime boss henchful causing all kinds of problems, creating monsters to fight them, creating different world spaces. Just the main illusion crushes through the city below, powering its way to the student academy and fighting student heroes along the way through teleportation and other tricks. The students were able to fight their way through the illusions and build to a towering takedown of Dark Might himself, but just when it seemed like that servant guy Julia was going to be able to save the girl, Dark Might rose up again and forced an even more epic battle, and servant guy was finally able to neutralize the girl, Miss Anne's power, and overcome Dark Might altogether. His illusions crumbled, and once again the day was saved, with a lot of wreckage to clean up. The movies wouldn't be much if there were no stakes, or the villains were defeated too easily, but in all reality, these great big towering plus ultra battle royales get big and plus royale and ultra and towering, more than I can absorb or even comprehend visually, and when there's just too damn much going on, my mind wanders and I wonder what Miss Marple is up to. Maybe she's solved that pesky little murder in the otherwise quiet little country village of St. Mary Mead as yet. Nothing at all against these movies and their towering epic battles, but just thinking out loud, it feels like people with an interest in doing so would use the downtime between epic destruction to reduce the risk of it. But then what would be the point of superheroes? It's a good set of storytelling, quite enjoyable. I absolutely recommend, but yeah, Tough Worlds is sustained there. Good luck, everyone. And with that, time to get this one in the feed. Thank you all for checking out my video cataloging project. You can check out my catalog listing along with audio links at VideoFuzzy.blogspot.com. For past episodes, add, follow, and subscribe to VideoFuzzy wherever you get podcasts. If you get a chance, check out my VideoFuzzy soundtrack entries as well. Feedback is always appreciated. You can contact me through my blog or podcast sites via email tjom1970@yahoo.com or through my VideoFuzzy pages on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. For VideoFuzzy, I'm Terry J. Aman. Happy viewing!
It might be amazing, it might just be disgusting, we'll find out together on VideoFuzzy.